Yeah, a little bit about myself. I worked for 28 years for Anheuser-Busch. Prior to that, I worked for different car dealerships in St. Louis, Dave Sinclair Ford being one of them. But 28 years Anheuser-Busch. In the process of that, did some training for the corporate, some inside spray teams for writing standard operating procedures. So the training and all that, worked with the packaging division the whole 28 years, and retired in 2007. Part of the process of retiring, I wanted to know, was I going to be doing the right thing if I left? Because I didn't want to burn a bridge that couldn't be resurrected by walking away from that job. So I sought out a life coach and hired him to help me to understand where I was, what I was actually going to be doing. So I did that, and in that process decided to learn more about it. So I went back to college after several years and picked up a master's degree in psychology so that I could pursue a dream that I had here. One of my passions is to help people in a way that helps them to get from where they really are in life to where they want to go, to where they want to be. And I do that in a couple ways. One is through coaching, and the other is through a seminar, and we'll talk a little bit about the seminar later. But I want to ask you a question first and foremost. Who am I? Who are you? What are your attributes as a person? When you start thinking about that, you think, whenever we consider going somewhere, whether it be from here to the airport, whatever, and you think in terms of, I'm going to call a taxi, I want to go to the airport. What do you think the first thing the taxi cab driver is going to ask, or the person on the other end of the phone is going to ask? Where are you? They need to know where you are. We got to know where we start so that whenever we have a plan, we can create a plan and move from where we are to where we want to be. So knowing who we are is key to everything that we do in coaching. The one thing I want you to do right now is consider writing a number on your non-dominant hand with your dominant finger. And write a number from 1 to 10, saying 1, Mike, you know what, my life is not worth talking about. To 10, Mike, you know, you wouldn't believe my life. And think about that and write that number on the palm of your hand. Now take that number and stick it on your forehead. Now, obviously, I can't see the number, but then I can. Because you see, the number we choose, that's our belief system about who we are. And we will act out in the way that we feel about ourselves. So if you look at this and you think in terms of, think about the greatest challenge is discovering who we are, and the second greatest is living in a way that honors what we discover. So thinking about our beliefs about who we are, about ourselves, about our life, it's actually a collage of all of our beliefs, our parents' beliefs, our friends' beliefs, the beliefs of our teachers, preachers, TV commercials, all the things that we see, hear, feel, taste, and smell. And we develop, we build a belief system around those perceptions about ourselves and about the things around us. The truth is, studies will show you, by age 2, we begin to develop this belief system about ourselves. By age 3, we start to make these judgments. So at that age, we're extremely sensitive to comments and to discussions by our parents. So the negative stuff that we hear, the no, don't do that, you're a bad girl, bad boy stuff, creates shame and guilt in us. Whereas whenever we do praise, when we do positive comments, try it this way instead. Here, let's do this instead. I mean, we got the little boy putting the screwdriver in a light socket. Well, hey, let's play with this toy instead. It builds a persistence level. It builds value and self-esteem inside the child. So if we expect something to happen, we perceive the outcome in line with our expectations. And so you see the lady here looking at the greens, and she said she believes in power of fruits and vegetables. We say these stories that are consistent with our biases, then we accept, and those inconsistent with our biases we reject. So you don't see somebody who says, I really believe that Toyota is the best vehicle out on the road. You probably don't see them driving a GM product or that type of thing. And so we will follow the beliefs of what we really espouse, those values that we come up with, we actually follow. So your beliefs are like the roots of a tree, and your values are like the branches. If we plant an acorn, we get an oak tree, right? If we plant rose bushes, we get roses. We're not going to get something different than what the roots are designed to develop. And so we think in terms of our own belief system. What is it that we believe? And out of those beliefs then come those values. So think about a $10 bill. I actually have one this morning, stopped by the bank and said, I want you to give me a fairly new $10 bill. So this is the best of what they gave me. All right? How much is that worth? $10. That may not buy a whole lot, a couple hamburgers, a soda, whatever. $10. But what if I, ask you, would anybody want it? Would anybody take it? Take it. Why? Because it's $10. But what if I crunch that up into a ball? Now, would anybody still want it? Well, what if I step on it, crunch it into the carpet? Somebody still wants it? Well, what if I took this $10 bill, now it's all wrinkled up, and I rip it? Still want it? Why? It has value. So you think about, okay, that has value. Have you thought about Jessica McClure? Jessica McClure, in 1987, she was 18 months old, I believe, and walking around the backyard of her aunt's home in Texas, Midland, Texas, and fell down in a water well, 22 feet, I believe it was, down, and she was down there for 2.5 days. Now, it took them that long to get her out because they didn't know she had her foot caught backwards in a crevice, which was probably the only thing that kept her from going all the way to the bottom of the well. They didn't really know how to get her out. My understanding was they dug another hole down next to her and got underneath her and pulled her out that way. But it took them 2.5 days. Now, this is Jessica McClure here, coming out of the well. They made a sign, October 16th, 1987, put it over the cap, and this is Jessica today. Okay. Now, why would a group of people spend 2.5 days getting a little 18-month-old girl out of a well? Why wouldn't we just say, oh, that's tough? Why do we do that? She had value. But she didn't do anything. I mean, Jessica was 18. She has never worked a day in her life, didn't pay anything into Social Security. She didn't ever pay taxes. But yet, the tax entities, all the different entities came out to help save Jessica McClure. What about these miners down in Chile? They're not from the United States. Why do we care about 33 miners down in Chile? They're buried underground for a couple months. They drilled a 4-inch hole down for 2,000 some feet to see if they were still alive and to get some air down there. So people from all over the United States came and they had drilled a huge hole and extricated all these guys out of the mine. Took them months, right? Why would we go down there, people from all over the world really, and why would we do that? People have value. Same thing with Oklahoma City, or this is actually Joplin. We had the tornadoes down there in Joplin a year ago. Since then we've had Hurricane Sandy, we've had the one in Oklahoma, more Oklahoma. All around the world we have these different issues that go on, and yet we'll funnel tons of money, tons of services, do whatever we can to get out there to help these people out. Why? People have value. So the question is, how do you rate yourself? What I'd like for you to do is close your eyes a moment and think about a dozen little bitty 5-year-old kids walk into this room. And some of them got dirty faces, they just ate a chocolate cookie. Some of them are dressed up real cute, some of them got torn jeans. And we look at these little kids and they're just a ball of fire, and we ask, how do you think they'd rate themselves? We ask these little children, how do you rate yourself? What do you think they'd say? Open up your eyes. What do you tell me? What do you think? They'd rate themselves from 1 to 10. They'd say a 10. Well, now, some of you are moms and dads, and you think, I remember when my little baby was born. How did you rate your newborn? Tens. Tens. So if you're born a 10, and at 5 years old you're 10, what do you think we are now? See, we're still 10s. We're born 10s, we're raised 10s, and we are 10s. It's not that we may not feel like a 10, but we do have value because we exist, not because of what we do. Our value is not determined by the job we have. It's not determined by the type of work that we have done or what we've paid into society or what we've accomplished at all. It's because we have value. Now, if you don't believe that, you think in terms of having a car accident out here and just watch everybody come to your aid, because some first responders will get there. People will rush to your side to do what they can do to help you out, to help you survive. Obviously, after they're expired, if I rip this $10 bill and shred it in a shredder, nobody wants it anymore. If it can't be put back together where I can at least take it back to the bank and say, well, I've got, see, once it's destroyed, if I burn it, no more value. Once the life is gone, the value is gone. But we do have value because of the fact that we exist, not because of what we do. So what do we do with this? Well, the thing of it is, we really don't know what we don't know, and we don't even know that we don't know it. And we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. And say, sometimes you need to look at life from a different perspective, just like the little kitty cat there. But we think in terms of, okay, I got this stuff going on, and I'm struggling in this area of my life. I don't necessarily like every aspect of what I see in myself. So we think in terms of, I'm just going to keep on going down this path, and maybe someday things will change. But you see, we carry our perspectives and baggage everywhere we go, in the workplace and relationships, when we make decisions. All those things, those life experiences, the things that we grew up with as a kid, that maybe we got things we didn't want, maybe we wanted things we didn't get. On the other hand, as an adult, we start making decisions and we mess things up, do things that we wish we hadn't done. And we think that our value is determined by that baggage, but in actuality, we just determine that we have value because we exist, not because of what we do. But our perspective, the glasses that we look through, the lenses of our life, determines where we go. So we're going down these paths, and we start thinking in terms of, you know what? I need to do something different, but you know, it's just maybe if I just wait long enough, you know, if I wait long enough, maybe it'll improve. I really don't know what I'm supposed to do, so if somebody just tell me what to do. Perhaps, you know what, I've done everything I can do and I've told my boss that, you know, I'm covering myself. I really don't have a problem. I don't know why, I don't even know what I'm even here for. You know, it's not my job to deal with this, or, you know, it's his fault or her fault. So we do this, and this is what they call a victimization cycle. If you read the book, The Oz Principle, talks about this. But we get into these victim roles, and we get stuck into a mindset that we never change. And so when you think about growth, it's not about inspiration or motivation, it's about a positive directional change. So it's about moving a position, and not about necessarily going about face and saying, I've done so much, so bad, so long that I have to go the opposite direction. May or may not be true. But it's not so much about the motivation and the inspiration about behind it as it is actually moving a position and going in a different direction. So the question is, have you reached a fork in your road? So there's a little story here. It's Life in 5 Chapters by Portia Nelson, and the gist of it is, I walk down the street, and there's a hole in my sidewalk. It's a deep hole, and I fall in it. I'm helpless. I'm lost. It's not my fault. It takes me forever to figure a way out of it. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk, and I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it's not my fault. It still takes me a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it's there. I fall in it anyway. It's a habit. All my eyes are all open. I know where I'm at, and it is my fault. But I'm able to get out immediately. Chapter 4, I walk down the same street. The hole in the sidewalk, I walk completely around it. Chapter 5, I walk down a different street. So when we look at making choices in our life, we think in terms of, I've been going down this path and it's comfortable. I've been doing this life thing. I've been living the way I'm living for so long that I don't know what else to do. I just keep going down the same road. The thinking that got us into the hole that we're in the first place is not going to be the same thinking we need to get out. We've got to think different ways. We've got to look at taking alternative paths, of moving a position and going a different direction. And when you think in terms of this, you think, holy smokes, I don't know what's over there. I don't know if I make choices and go in a different direction, if it's the right choice. I don't know if I want to go there or not, because I'm not familiar with this. It looks to me like, Mike, there's rain clouds over here. There could be holes and pitfalls and all kinds of problems. So there's an accountability part of this. Acknowledging reality is the first part. So what did you rate yourself? Anybody want to give me an idea? A 5. Why a 5? Because you could do better. But doing, and we talked about this, and that was before we went through this scenario, doing is not what life is about. It's about being, right? And so I choose to be who I really am. And going back to the I am and saying, who are you? When we start thinking about our attributes and saying, I am this person, we talk about affirmations. We talk a lot about affirmations and some of the other stuff that we've gone on, trained on. I am this and that and the other. I'm a positive person, I'm a negative person. Telling yourself you're a negative person goes in a negative direction, right? Telling yourself you're a positive person puts you in a different position. So thinking in terms of what can I tell myself and who am I, think about your attributes of you as a person. I'm a positive individual. I am a unique individual. I am a passionate individual. And thinking in those terms, then we start saying to ourselves, well, acknowledging reality, looking at the whole picture and saying, I want something different than what I've got. And in order to get something different than what I've got to go a different way. I've got to think differently. So then we accept responsibility. Okay, you know what? I may not have created the problem I've got. Maybe I was abused as a kid. Maybe I was abandoned as a kid. Maybe I was misguided as an adult. Maybe I made a mistake. But the accountability part may not be something that I did. Maybe I was abused. It wasn't my fault I was abused. But I perpetuate that reality over and over and over again in my mind. So I do have accountability for perpetuating the problem. And not realizing that I have a positive, there's a positive me inside of this that wants to make a position change, that wants to get to a different part in my life. So we accept responsibility for that, and then we find solutions. So that requires mentoring, getting with somebody, getting into work groups, mastermind groups, whatever, and trying to find out the answers to the question that we all have of where do I need to go from here? How do I get to the next level? How do I move? How do I get out of this hole? Okay? And then finally getting on with it, because we can acknowledge reality and accept responsibility and find for solutions, but if we don't move a position and actually do something about it, and I'm not talking about working faster, working harder, doing all the things that you might think of in terms of being a human doing instead of a human being, but taking those decisions that we say, okay, I need to make a decision, I need to start a different thought process, I need to get more education, I need to do whatever it is you feel that you need to do to whatever you've worked through on your accountability. And so we think in terms of next steps. And I really like this. Randy Shrum came up with this last session that we had. And he talked about living in the future and building what's missing. And that's real powerful, because we get into this mindset where we think, okay, I don't like what I've got, so I need to create what I want. And we are all creative in a sense. What are your next steps? So live in the future. Live in the future. Where do I want? Who am I as a person? If I understand who I am, and I get away from right, wrong thinking, and start thinking about what works and what doesn't work. Because we could be coming into an intersection, and we may have the right of way, and there may be a semi coming from the other direction who's got a red light, and we might be right. I can enter that intersection and I'm right, but we might be dead right, because we're going to be dead regardless. So entering the intersection wouldn't be something that would work. What happens is we got to consider what works and what doesn't work, and stop thinking about what's right and what's wrong. And I don't mean morally right, morally wrong, but what's right for me to do. Should I do this? Is this the right thing to do? Is that the wrong thing to do as far as my life, my purpose? What's going to work for you? What works for you? Because everybody's going to have a different statement about themselves. Everybody's going to learn a different thing about themselves. Everybody starts from basically a different position. We all have value. It's all intrinsic. But we're each going a different direction, in our own direction, right? And so what works for us? I talked about two things that I do. The one is coaching. I do coach individually. I help people to understand who they are. We start that by starting with your attributes, your belief system, your values. Out of the values and beliefs, we determine who a person is. From that, we build on vision and missions, because we really want to know what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing, and then moving out from that to get to the what. But we also do this seminar. I host this seminar since 2008. Our next event's in July 19th, 20th, 21st, and August the 2nd through the 4th. It's a very unique, authentic, experiential seminar we hold right here in St. Louis. They also do it over in Kansas City, Boise, Idaho, Oklahoma City, Nashville, Tennessee. They do them around the United States. But we have one right here in St. Louis coming up, and over at the Highland Education Training Center on Kennedy Road. So that, in a nutshell, is my discussion today. I'm Mike Elfrank with Focal Quest Life Coaching.